In our efforts to highlight Black community leadership, the Dominique Hoskins Black History Museum and Learning Center is pleased to share this oral history interview conducted in June 2025, featuring Webster Lincoln, City Council member from East Palo Alto. Councilmember Lincoln won his seat during the 2024 election cycle. Since then, he has been trying to improve the infrastructure and city governance of East Palo Alto. In this interview, we discuss the ways in which Mr. Lincoln has become a leader, his family history, and the work he hopes to do to improve East Palo Alto. What influenced your sense of responsibility and leadership in the community that led you to run for city council?
I just wanted to give back to my community, make things better for everyone that's already here, make improvements, making sure they're providing better city services. East Palo Alto was one of the only two Black founded cities in the state of California. It became a city in 1983, and we became a city because we wanted to have a right to self-determination to determine as a city where we want to grow. And so for me, there was challenges because I'm just a person that likes to work on problems in the community.
What have been your biggest priorities since you joined the East Palo Alto City Council?
Economic development, improving city services, providing opportunities for youth and business people, entrepreneurs in the community. Those have been my biggest priorities.
What accomplishments are you most proud of since you've been serving on the East Palo Alto City Council?
I've only been on for about 6 months, but we've passed our budget. We're working on parking, we're getting streets fixed, lighting, a lot of infrastructure improvements, pushing forward and trying to get some new development, improving our general fund and removing our structural deficit that was created due to ballot initiatives and stuff like that. But I would say working on addressing the parking issues in East Palo Alto, that's something that is going to be a difficult challenge, but I'm only 6 months in and we've already seen an improvement in our services. We are seeing improvements in code enforcement and other things like that. Just the quality of life issues. I think that's mostly it, just making sure our city staff are doing their jobs, making sure that we're doing the best that we can for our community and our citizens. And for a lot of people, that's being able to have a place to park when you come home from work. If you can't park near where you live, that's like a big concern. There's a lot of long-term things that we're working on and improvements. We've implemented a 4-year strategy and a strategic plan, and we've passed a budget to start putting our city on a better path. We're working on developing a city hall and a civic center, partnering with one of the developers to get that funding. And so I think those are some of the major accomplishments. East Palo Alto, we've been a city for almost 40 years and we don't have a city hall. We're still renting from the county.
Earlier on, you mentioned how East Palo Alto became recognized as a city in 1983 after years-long struggle for recognition and self-determination. So how do you see this legacy of this fight for incorporation playing a role in the city today?
So we're still under-resourced. When we became a city, the issue was that we didn't have a tax base. So when you don't have a tax base, you can't provide policing. You can't have code enforcement, parking issues. Like we had East Palo Alto at one point was the murder capital of the United States. Our police force was understaffed. We couldn't hire enough police officers. But now we're at a point where we have some development. We still have a lot of land that could be developed in our business district to support a lot of the services that we could provide for our residents. So we're still on the path of getting some of that resolved, but we've made a lot of progress.
How do you understand East Palo Alto's history, and how does that history help inform the decisions you make as a council member today?
So East Palo Alto, like I said, it was one of the first Black founded communities in Palo Alto. Given that we're a Black founded community, there's been a lot of difficulty developing a community that's really for us. But East Palo Alto today isn't what it was like 30 or 40 years ago. We're still a diverse community, but at the same time, a lot of the Black people that lived here left or they moved back to the South or moved to the Central Valley. But nevertheless, it's all about self-determination. We elect people to represent us. So I was elected to represent the people. We're here to make the best decisions for our community. And so that's really what it's all about is self-determination, being independent and making sure that we're not outsourcing stuff. We want to do a lot of stuff in-house. Hire people locally, provide jobs for people here in East Palo Alto. That's really it.
How do you stay connected to the residents you serve, and how do you make sure that their voices can be heard?
So I have an email address, I have Facebook, I have a city cell phone. I attend community events every weekend. I'm very actively involved in outreach. If anyone has questions about anything, they can always message me or reach out. I'm always available. So it's really just maintaining a presence in the community. I'm elected on the city council. I go to 2 meetings, but unless you're out there meeting with people and talking with people, then you kind of lose that connection that you really need to govern effectively. Sometimes I have good ideas, but I need community input. What does the community really want? I know what I want, but I'm not on the city council for myself. I need to do what the community elected me to do.
How do you describe the changes happening in East Palo Alto today? What do you see changing? What gives you hope?
Things have changed a lot, but I'm just happy to see that there's a next generation that's going to come and continue working on solving some of these issues that have been historically problematic in our community. So that gives me hope.
And what do you think the biggest pressures or opportunities that the community is facing in this moment?
It's mostly just infrastructure issues and infrastructure challenges. A lot of our pipes and stuff and infrastructure is hundreds of years old. And without development or having the capital to fix that stuff, it's like you can't develop as a city. A lot of these buildings, a lot of these apartments and everything here are very old and they need to be replaced. But in order to replace them, you have to meet modern building standards. And we need fire suppression and all kinds of water storage tanks. And there's a lot of things that East Palta doesn't have that we really need. Those are the things that we kind of have to address and keep at the forefront.
What advice would you give to young people about how they can make a difference in their community?
Get involved. There's a lot of opportunities out here. Half the battle is showing up. Everybody's kind of guilty of it. They're in their own world. They have their own school or work or their own personal lives. But if you're really interested in helping others and getting involved, there's a lot of opportunities, not only being a part of city government, but also through various nonprofits who have their own sort of missions, whether it's like working with addressing homelessness or housing advocacy and public policy research, youth sports, youth technology, or whatever. There's a lot of opportunities in the community. You just have to go and seek out those opportunities and commit to them.
How have you seen your community and the Bay Area change growing up here till now?
I spent a lot of time in Mountain View. My dad was in the Navy, so I grew up the first few years of my life on military bases. So whether it was in Lemoore, California, or at Moffett Field, I went to Wisman Elementary in Mountain View from kindergarten till first grade, and then my parents bought their home here in East Palo Alto in 1994. When Clinton became president, he started closing a lot of the military bases because the Cold War had ended. So it's like we don't need all this military stuff built up and prepared. When they closed the military base, a lot of the people ended up leaving. And this was before Silicon Valley was really Silicon Valley. We had Apple and HP and a lot of other Silicon Valley tech companies and personal computing companies. But we didn't have Google, Facebook. That stuff was just coming out. Search engines and the internet was just starting to take off with AOL and everything. So once all that started happening, East Palo Alto was like 80 or 90% black, and then like maybe 15, 20% like Latino and some white and Asian and Pacific Islander. But as soon as the dot-com boom era came, property values started soaring. A lot of people sold their homes and left. So I've seen very drastic demographic shifts, specifically in East Palo Alto. And I've seen really everything from the economics. A lot of people would work at companies like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, the military. It was more working class in the Bay Area. There was more kids. East Palo Alto had like 5 or 6 schools, so a lot more people were having children. Now they're closing schools because there's just not enough kids to populate all of them. They're consolidating them. When my parents graduated high school, they could go out and get a job and have kids and buy a house and live the American dream. But in my generation, that's very hard, especially here in the Bay Area. And that's why a lot of people have left and moved to Texas or Sacramento, where it's cheaper and affordable, more working class, and not so much tech workers that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Nevertheless, I've seen the demographic shifts. I've seen the lifestyle changes, the educational changes, really everything. I'm almost 40 years old now. I'm still here. The culture's still here. A lot of people go to the churches are still here. I mean, everything that one generation had started, some of that's still left here in the community, regardless of whether the people have left. The churches, the schools, all that stuff is still here, but the whole lifestyle has changed, how people live. Nowadays, instead of having your own house, a lot of these homes are multi-generational. You have multiple families living in one house. Sometimes you have to overcrowd. That will impact the community because there's a lot more cars and people have to worry about parking spots. A lot of these homes are built as single family homes, not as multi-family homes. The costs The lifestyle, the people, the demographics, all that has changed, but a lot of the culture is still here. A lot of the legacy residents that own their homes still live here in East Palo Alto.
What was the process like running for council? And then now that you're on it, what do you want your legacy to be?
I just wanted my legacy to be that I made a positive impact. For me, it's never been about maintaining the status quo, but always making things better.
Can you talk a little bit about your journey to getting to the council? What was it like running?
Well, I ran 3 times, and so I got elected on my third. The first time I lost by 69 votes, second time I lost by 15 or so votes, and then this time I won by like 200 votes. You just got to keep trying. If you're close, just keep running. Don't give up. A lot of people would have quit. Al Gore, he quit. That was a close election against George Bush. He could have ran again and probably could have beat him. Running for office, it's like a volunteer thing. You're committing your personal time. If you want to make money or do other things and not be in the public eye, then you can just be a private individual, work on whatever you're doing. But not everyone's built for being in the newspaper. Not everyone's built for being under the public scrutiny, dealing with people protesting a lot of the things that you want to implement. I ran 3 times. I lost twice. I won. I'm here. Don't give up.
What do you think is the best part about being on the city council? And then what might be more challenging?
Sometimes it's working with city staff because we have a vision for what we want and we make policy decisions. They are supposed to be implementing our policy decisions. And sometimes there might be a conflict because some people join and work having their own sort of thoughts and their own vision. That kind of doesn't align with the people that are on council. One of the problems we had in our community was the city manager position. The city manager is basically the executive of our city. Over the last like 10 years or 15 years, we've had like 8 different city managers. With that much turnover, how much progress can you make? When you have so much turnover in your organization, it's disruptive at a certain point. And so we decided we're going to pay our city manager well. We're going to give him a long-term contract. If he implements, we'll keep him. If not, we just won't renew it. But he's already proven himself and he's been a member of the community. So it's like, let's go with him. He's been working in cities and this is where he grew up. Let's give him that opportunity. It's very hard to recruit people who are local and who grew up in the community and that want to give back.
What is your favorite thing about this role?
So I get invited to a lot of events. Like I'm getting interviewed right now. So I feel important. I think that's cool, just the notoriety and all that. But at a certain time, it becomes too much because like every weekend I'm invited to somebody's event. They want me to come speak and all that. So that's cool. For me, it's always about staying connected with the community and giving back. So yeah.